At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Welcome to the show. Today, the Author Brand Show. You're going to want to take notes and know there is irrational thoughts coming. They're just not going to come right away because I'm going to talk first. But we are bringing on a storyteller with a message. She's always looking for adventure and always has a story to tell. And she decided to capture some of her life stories a few years ago, simply to save her lessons learned from her two daughters. So this unexpected journey to create a blog, which led to writing her first children's book. And now she's published 3 children's books, with books 4 and 5 on the way. So she recently started a podcast called Storytellers with a Message. Love that. It's a fun podcast where storytellers can tell of their personal experiences and what they've learned from them. And we all need a little bit of learning every day. So after 20 years of working in the world of business operations, Lorrie's walked away from the corporate world to work for a nonprofit organization. I want to hear about that, Lorrie. Her desire to continue writing children's books and to continue telling her stories in hopes of conveying important core values to readers and listeners of all ages. So welcome to the show today, children's storyteller, Lorrie. Lorrie, how you doing?
Hi, Doug. Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's
good.
Very good to have you on. So why should people listen to us today?
Oh, gosh, because we're going to talk about kids' books and how important they are.
Little Engine That Could, one of my favorites. Okay.
There's a lot of good ones out there.
There are. And, you know, I get calls as a publisher every once in a while for publishing those things. And my first question is, wow, there's so much fun and colorful and more expensive to print than a leadership book and nonfiction. How do you distribute those? How do you get those books in the hands of kids when the kids don't have credit cards? How does that work?
Well, it's not about the kids buying them, right? It's about mom and dad and grandpa and aunts and uncles. And so the idea is to get them out in front of the kids or in front of the audience, per se.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for me, kids' books, the most important thing about kids' books is that you can relate a message to the reader. Sometimes it's to the reader, not to the kid.
To the reader, not the kid. Isn't the kid reading the book? You mean the buyer?
Well, the parents are reading the books usually to the kids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the parents reading with them. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, usually with them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah. Don't yell at your child. Oh, good advice, Mom. Yeah, read this book. Right?
Well, and the thing is, kids' books are so cool because you can read them with your child, and then you can open up a conversation or a dialogue, you know, whatever that message is that you want to talk about. And so it's a really good way to, sometimes you can talk about subjects or topics that you might not just, you know, be walking through the grocery store and talk about. So,
yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I remember when the Clinton sex scandal exploded in the media, and I think my daughter was like 6 or something like that, and she looked at the newspaper and said, "What does sex mean?" You know, right off the bat. I said, "Oh, it's a gender thing. It's, you know, male, female, right?" That's what I just.
Nice, quick.
That's quick. All right, so you got into this by accident. Tell me about that story. You were sitting there talking to kids and making up a story, or how did it go?
Oh gosh. Well, the funniest part about it is that I was actually in New York with my best friend. Mm-hmm. And so the children's piece of this, the children's writing piece of this is how this happened. Uh-huh. But I was sitting on a bed with my best friend and her daughter's an illustrator. And I said, "Hey, Katie, show me some of your illustrations." And she started showing me all these great, just adorable anime illustrations. And I said, "Well, I have an idea. How about I just write you a story and you illustrate it?" She wanted to go to SCAD, which is an art school in Savannah, Georgia. And she'd never had a job. She wasn't a published illustrator. I said, "We'll just get you published. We'll get your, get it on a resume. You'll have it as job experience." Great idea. So I write her this fun little kid's story. She illustrates the first page. Never touches it again.
Okay. Right? So you got your first book done with an illustrator.
And so I didn't. Okay. So that first book, nothing happened. She never finished it, but I had so much fun learning about the process and self-publishing and how you get an illustrator and all that. So I continued to write, but my writing started with blogging.
Yeah.
and just capturing stories for my kids. I end up in really weird situations all the time. And so I decided, yeah, we won't go there. And
Oh, come on. They're kids' stories. It's nothing going to be, hey, we're not on TV here. It's my podcast.
well,
We can
I
talk
will
whatever we
definitely
want.
tell you the story of the first book. How's
All
that?
right.
Fair?
Okay.
Fair enough. And yeah, and so I decided I'd start capturing these fun, weird things that happened to me and the lesson that I learned from them. And I
Okay.
thought, well, and the reason I did that was my grandmother passed away young, my mother passed away young. And so my mom was a kindergarten teacher. She taught kindergarten for 30 years, and her stories were hysterical, and they're all gone. They're all gone.
Wow.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to start capturing these stories.
Yeah.
So when the kids are older, here's these experiences that I went through and what I learned and all that. That's how it all started. It never was ever supposed to go any further than that. And then it ended up being a blog. So that's how that happened. So
so tell me the first story here. What's it about?
Okay, so the very first story is called "Why Is There an Elephant in My Basement?" And it's a story about excuses and accountability. And this is where it came from. My daughter had a friend that needed some help. And so this young lady and her little 3-year-old daughter moved into my house. And I had a converted basement. And things didn't go very well.
What do you mean?
It just didn't go very well. And so my older daughter calls me and she says, Mom, you really need to address the elephant in the room. You really need to take care of that. I said, oh, honey, the elephant's not in the room. It's in the basement. And a book is born.
Nice.
And so this book is about excuses and accountability. Why is there an elephant in your basement? Because she's hungry and the food is terrific. Because she was lonely and there's lots of friends. All these reasons, there's an elephant in the basement. And so when you get to the end of it, the answer is, why is there an elephant in your basement?
Because you let him in?
Because you let him in. And guess what? You get to let him out. So that's how the first one started. It was very fun to write. It was very easy to write. I presented it to a group of high school students. And I said, okay, guys, I'm going to read you this book. And they're like, no, Miss Lorrie, you're not going to read us a kid's book. No. I said, just come on, please. Of course, they love kids' books. Everybody loves kids' books.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Fond memories as an adult. I keep thinking of Little Engine That Could. I read that one 100 times easily.
I think I can. I think
probably shaped my personality quite a bit because I don't quit.
There you go. Yeah. So I read them the story and I say, guys, what is the basement? What does that represent? And and they all kind of gave me like this,
Yeah.
And I said, it represents your life. Basement is your life. What's the elephant in the basement? Stuff in your life that shouldn't be there. So we talked about stuff that could be in your basement that shouldn't be there.
Right.
And what you do and how you get it out. Yeah. So here was the cool part. This is how I knew that I needed to write more because I loved it so much. It was months later. And this young lady that was, one of my students sits down next to me. She goes, Miss Lorrie, guess what? I got rid of an elephant out of my basement this week. Right.
And she said what it was?
Yeah, it was a boy thing.
The boy wouldn't leave, huh?
It was a boyfriend thing. But the cool thing is that that's what she equated it to. Yeah. That she heard it, she got it, and she knew she knew she needed to ditch the dude.
Yes, no more interspecies dating. That's a good lesson to learn. Yeah, we don't want to do that. Good point.
Yeah, so that's how it all started.
Wonderful. I love that. Wasn't there an old Saturday Night Live sketch called "The Thing That Wouldn't Leave"? Like somebody comes to visit you and then they never leave.
Never leave. Well, and there's a book. Let's see. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's gonna want a glass of milk, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I think that's a movie line. They use it for something like that in a movie.
Yeah, I think that's a kid's book too.
Right. That's brilliant. I like that. So you got the book done. How did you give me some details on the distribution of these aunts and uncles and parents? How did you contact them? Do you have a distributor or just on your own? Or what?
I don't. I'm doing it on my own, and I'm going to be the full disclosure here. I am horrible at marketing. I just am. I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
So, it kind of is, I don't know. It's very organic. You know, I'll show it to someone, they'll say, "Oh, I love it." Oh, and then they show it to someone else and they say, I want some." And that's really how it grew. Facebook, personal connections and networking is really how I've done it.
Don't ever apologize for that. I forgot
Yeah.
which book it was. I think it was either Eckhart Tolle's or some big famous author got like 100 books in his trunk and would just go from town to town and talk about it at like small meetings. And it
Yeah.
took him like a year or so, but eventually it picked up some steam on its own and became its own entity.
Yeah. If
So
if
I
I could
think that,
do it all the time, it would be
yeah,
different, and then of course I have a, pandemic break here in the middle of it all, and I work. So
right.
there's only so many hours.
It's tough. It's tough. Well, this isn't a coaching session, but I would say look for some joint venture partners in that space. Any large parent groups, parent teacher groups, whatnot,
Yeah.
and try to get them involved at some level. That's usually better because we've been doing book marketing for over 13 years now.
Wow.
And this social media thing is run its course. You can only have so many people are going to look at your post. Here's my book. Well, how many times can you say that? Twice, maybe, before people go, shut up. That's enough.
Right. What do you want from me?
Yeah. You need advocates, other people championing your book. And the best ones, obviously, parents and teachers would really
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. So you're and you work for a nonprofit, right?
I do. I work for a nonprofit.
Okay. Can you tell us about that at all?
Well, I can tell you a little bit about it. It's called Educational Media Foundation, and it's a Christian organization, and they have multimedia opportunities.
Yeah.
Spokes. So I do contracts management. I'm a business person, so I've been doing that for years. My background is actually in government.
Okay.
Who knew? Department of Defense. Who knew? But yeah, I got kind of tired of the rat race in the corporate world. And so I decided that I really loved doing books. I really loved writing and doing blogging and speaking and that kind of stuff. So the way for me to be able to do that was to walk away from the big corporate, on call 24/7 kind of a job and do something different, which has freed me up to do some of the other stuff.
Wonderful. Wonderful. What's book number 4 going to be about? I know you got a couple coming up.
Book number 4, let's see. Yeah. Number 4 will be the next one coming out, and it's getting really close. I just got the last, I don't know what it's called. Proof, I guess. The last proof of all the illustrations. So I've got all the illustrations done. So now we're just going to be folding into the text and the fonts and get it done. So we're really close. And that one is called Arnie's Light, and it's going to be about a firefly whose light isn't quite as bright as everyone else's.
Oh,
so he's kind of teased and bullied. But Jewel, his friend Jewel, comes alongside him. And the light of 2 fireflies is enough. It's about friendship.
Unless you're like my dad, because back in the 60s, they capture him and he would, squeeze him and kill him and put him, make a ring out of him.
Careful now.
Not now, because they're not really, I don't know if they're in danger, but they're not as popular as they were back in the 60s. But I gave him a hard time about that. I said, Dad, I think they're in danger now because of you. I used to make
it's his fault.
Yeah, it is pretty much. Yeah, I can blame him. Turned 97 last week, so I can't give him too much hard time. All right, so that's about friendship. Give me more. I love these themes. It's good.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
I'll run down them really quick.
Yeah.
So the first one is Why Is There an Elephant in My Basement? Excuses and Accountability. Talked about that one. Second one is called Little White Flies. And it's taken from the expression, it's just a little white lie. So it's about a pig.
It sounds like it's racist. I'm not sure about that. Is that fly privilege? Little white flies?
No, Little White Flies. And it's about Piper the pig, who has a little bit of an honesty problem. He's kind of like just the little white lie king. And so the book kind of goes through what happens when you tell a lot of little white lies, and people you start gathering little white flies when you tell a little white lie. And so pretty soon people don't really want to hang out with him anymore because he's gathering white flies. And so in the end, he kind of figures it out and apologizes and kind of changes his MO.
See, that
So,
is so much more pleasant than the little boy who cried wolf and got eaten. You know,
exactly.
it's a little bit
Exactly.
easier.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking that when I wrote it, though.
Oh, I'm not saying that. No,
I'm
there's a
kidding.
common themes and everything. Everything's a hero's journey, but I'm just saying that would make me think of that. But like, yeah, he told a little,
Yeah.
there's a wolf. There's a wolf. And all of a sudden, oh, okay, I don't
Yeah.
believe him. I think he got eaten, but I don't know. Okay, so we have
So that's 2.
accountability and lying. What else we got?
Next one is called I Am Beautiful Too. And right now that's my favorite.
Yeah.
And it's about a white peacock who doesn't think he's beautiful because he's white. So
Aw.
white peacocks are literally white birds. They're not albino peacocks. They're white
Oh,
birds
in reality.
in reality. And they
Okay.
are stunningly gorgeous.
Yeah,
So here's your homework. When you get a minute, look up a white peacock. They
I
are
will. Yeah.
beautiful. So his name is Albie, and he goes through the zoo, and he thinks everybody's beautiful, but he just doesn't think he's beautiful. And so he's always wishing to be more beautiful. And so something happens, and every time he sees somebody that he thinks is beautiful, he starts taking on some of their color. And pretty soon he's just a hot mess. He's just a hot mess. And he goes to the white snow owl and he says, I wanted to be beautiful, but look at me. I don't look anything like myself anymore. And the white owl says, but Albie, you're most beautiful when you're just you.
Right.
And so he kind of thinks about it and ponders it. And he goes back to the wishing lake and he sees his reflection and he's turned back to white. And he says, I am beautiful too. So
see, that reminds me of the Dr. Seuss book with the Gertrude. Sorry. Remember the Gertrude one where she started taking all the feathers because she didn't have enough feathers? She had one little one. She puts all these feathers on, then she gets so heavy she couldn't fly. So.
There you go. Yeah. So that one is my favorite. That one is just I think, and it's fun that Albie is a boy.
Yeah.
That I think that's something that's really kind of noteworthy because we think that this not feeling beautiful is just women, and that is absolutely not true. We're all looking for this acceptance, and we're all looking for the peer pressure and crumbling under it. And it's just not little girls. It's everybody.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one too. That's really important. Little boys, especially if they're, depending what the age is, but there's always that awkward age where you're like, you definitely don't look attractive when you're going through puberty. Sometimes it's just talk about hot mess, right?
Right.
They turn out great. My son was like really awkward, and he was like 12. Now he looks like a Hollywood actor. He's gorgeous. So. But he was gorgeous before, to be fair,
He's
right?
gorgeous on the inside, though.
That's right. Yeah.
So so Albie was number 3. That I'm Beautiful Too. The next one coming out will be Arnie's Light, and then 2023.
Number 5. Yeah.
2023 will be Dragon Breath. It's going to be called
Dragon. White dragon. I'm just wondering because we got like white lies and white peacocks. Is a dragon white also?
No, he's not. He's not going to be. He's not. It all has to do with dragon fruit. Did you know that dragon fruit is what keeps dragons from having fiery breath? Did you know that?
No, but I love the taste of it. I had it when I was in Asia.
So
what's that book about?
So that book is about treating meanness with kindness.
Oh, I love that one a lot. That's good.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Because I think I had both sides of that as a kid. Sometimes I was picked on, and then later I was a picker, depending on what age you're talking there. And I look back on it and I'm, God, what a jerk. Some of the things I did, it was really bad, Yeah. And I remember this one girl in school, she got bullied so much, she committed suicide. It was really serious, Yeah. Yeah. That was a real wake-up call. And that was high school, right? High school.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's important topics you're doing here. I really, really appreciate that. So what's next? Have you thought about number 6 yet, or just those next 2?
Come on now. Actually, I've got I actually have more. I definitely have more, but we'll have to talk about those another time.
One at a time.
I can't give away all my secrets.
See, good marketing. You tell them good stuff and then you tease them for
later.
I
actually have 10. I actually have 10 written.
Don't tell me. Save
I'm
not later.
telling you.
Put it in the show notes below, folks. You'll see a bunch of links to her blog and her books there, right? So are the books available on your website or Amazon or both? Or
they are. They're available on Amazon. They're also available on my website, www.lorrie D Grant, which is LorrieDGrant.com. That's where my website is. That's where my blog is.
Great. And I'm going to encourage people to buy directly from you versus Amazon, so you keep all the money. How about that?
Well, and all they have to do is tell me who they want me to sign it to, and I can,
Signed copy.
How fun is that for a little kid to get a book and open it up and it says, "To Janie, love Lorrie."
Of course, if it's a peacock one, I take like a chicken foot and put it in ink and then put that on there like the peacock signed it. No?
Would you? Would you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The greatest thing about kids is when they're young, not when they're like 9, but when they're a little younger than that, I had so much fun just making stuff up, and they go, "Oh, really, Daddy?" They just believe whatever you say. It's like little people.
Well, and I think what makes these books special is, as I said at the very beginning, let's take Little White Flies, for example. Yeah. When you get to the end of the book, you can talk about honesty,
right?
And it's all open because it's like the book talks about it, but you can still relate it to them without having to be a heavy conversation.
Yeah, without being accusatory, you can talk like a third person. Well, here's what happened to them. What do you think about that?
Right.
Oh, bad idea. And then I would say, well, I remember I made a white lie once, and it survived for about 6 months, and it came out like they always do. And that would be a good conversation with kids. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And so it's really been fun. I think what I enjoy the most about it. And on the back of each book, I ask a question to the reader. So in Little White Flies, there's a sentence that goes through all the way through the book that says, that he said with a sigh. And so at the back of it says, "Is there a little white fly causing you to sigh?" And so it even gives you like a prompt.
Yes. Love it.
If you want it.
I love poetry. One of my favorite kids' books was, I forgot the author, but they wrote the Legend of Pecos Bill. And it was this beautiful, like 30 pages of rhymes. "Gather on folks, the tale needs telling. It's time that the tale be told. Come listen, if you will, about Pecos Bill in the winter of the bone deep cold. Now the babe bounced out of the wagon back while the family was bumping out west. And a year passed by till they wondered why there was so much room for the rest." That's about as far as I memorized. A whole bunch.
Love it.
But you have these things where you say, if you're stranded on a desert island, which book would you bring? Like, that'd be the one I would bring, because it was beautifully illustrated. It rhymed. It was a fun story for kids. It's just good times.
And that's the thing about kids' books is they are really pretty. They're and you've got all different levels, especially in self-publishing. You have all different levels. So it's kind of fun.
Love it. Love it. Lorrie Grant here in the house. Website one more time, Lorrie, for those who don't want to click on the thing below, just want to hear you say it. Go ahead.
Website is www.LorrieDGrant, and it's LorrieDGrant.com.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate having the show today. And keep writing those books. Those sound like very good topic.
Will do.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Doug.
Okay, you bet. That's our show today on the Author Brand Show. I'm your host. Don't forget to click on her books below and subscribe to the show. We got some free goodies for you. Have a good one.